Bienvenido. If you are able, please share this show with a friend, leave us a nice review on the podcast player of your choice, or if you'd like to support us financially, sign up for the companion podcast, The St. Nicholas Project, on Gum Road. All these things really help us out. Namaste.
Hello, friend. The Mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from beneath 4 million cubic feet of solid granite, in the burning heart of the Yellowstone caldera. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. So, keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground, as Sumo and Smokestack connect your main brain vein to a higher plane. Are you ready? Stand by.
Well, Reverend, please come quick, 'cause I got something I gotta admit. I met a man out in the sticks, of a good old miss. He drove a Series 10 Cadillac and wore a cigar on his lip. Don't you know the devil wears a suit and tie? Saw him driving down the interstate in early July. White as a cotton field and sharp as a knife. Smiling as it passed me by. And he said, I know you, young man. I know you by the state of your hands. You're a six-string picker, just like I am. Let me show you a few tunes I know make all the girls dance. Don't you know the devil wears a suit and tie? Saw him driving down the interstate in early July. White as a cotton field and sharp as a knife. Heard him howling as it passed me by.
Mr. Simpson, please cover your ears while I say the secret access word. Cheese.
Good morning, Agent Johnson. The film you're about to see is top secret and contains adult situations. In 1945, the people of Europe struggled to rebuild following the war.
Shut up, Simpson.
To ease this crisis, President Truman promised relief.
American tax dollars will help our allies who fought so poorly and surrendered so readily.
To make good on this drunken boast, Truman authorized the one-time printing of the largest denomination currency ever, a $1 trillion bill.
Ooh, $1 trillion bill? That's a spicy meatball.
The man chosen to deliver this precious cargo to Europe was America's wealthiest and therefore most trustworthy citizen, Sir Montgomery Burns. Unfortunately, the money never arrived.
Well, this is a kick in the knickers. Should we complain to somebody?
No, I say we just act snooty to Americans forever.
I agree.
This film will self-destruct if not properly stored.
Good morning.
Good morning.
$1 trillion bill! $1 trillion coin, everybody.
It's happening.
We're going to print The Simpsons predicted it.
Yep.
Like they predicted so much. Like they predicted the Trump presidency. COVID. I think iPhones at one point. Everything. The $1 trillion coin. We're gonna talk about that today. We're gonna talk about number 666, what it's about, where it comes from. But first, good morning.
Good morning.
First, we have to say goodbye to Svirij. How are you doing today?
Who's Svirij?
Svirij is one of my favorite online personalities.
Mm-hmm.
It's SV the number 3 RIGE.
Okay.
That's his name. And he's going away. And it makes me sad. He said he did his last post.
Oh.
He's been on for over a decade.
Wow. It's quite a run.
I think maybe he's being sued or something for something he said on YouTube.
Probably.
He started off life as a simple vegan YouTuber, with like yoga and stuff, but slowly evolved into such things as eating a 2-year-old raw egg.
Yeah. Okay. You've sent me his stuff before. It's crazy.
Yeah, eating raw beef liver at a vegan festival. Claiming there are no trees. In all seriousness. Eating 1-year rotten meat out of a jar. How to fight naturally by following your instincts, in which he and another shirtless German jump around in jorts as if they are fighting flamingos. A full day of drinking blood was a good one he had. He had one show where he advised you to stare directly into the sun at noon. He had one titled "The Human Apex Predator versus the Mentally Disabled," and it was all content like that. From the seed of veganism grew this beautiful, flourishing tree with all these fruits. Just you'll know them by their fruits. And his fruits were so delicious to partake of that I cannot. He said something on his last show. I will quote it here. He said, because I wrote it down. Demon kidnapped and enslaved my child, essentially, pretty much 9 months ago, almost. Who knows what abuse he's going through and what's happening? Nobody knows because nobody's seen him ever since. It's this, and also she could never make a video because of her narcissism. That's the only way I can explain it, and admit to everything she's already admitted to me that she's done to me. I'm not even asking for an apology, because I understand she doesn't have any feelings, but just a video. So I think he's going through something. Sounds like he's going through a relationship problem.
Yeah, I think so.
But I feel I don't know where I'm going to go to get that level of schizophrenia in my life anymore. Because like he would look at the mesas in Arizona, those big towers, and he'd be like, those are petrified tree trunks. And then he'd have a whole exegesis about why, and it was like, wow, this guy is really well, he was. I was going to say he's off the reservation, but I think at the time he was actually physically on a reservation, so it didn't make sense to say that. But I'm going to miss him a lot, and I hope whatever endeavors he goes on to next, he's great. Yeah, it's a sad day.
Best of luck, Svirij.
Svirij, how have you been? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm doing real good.
No, nothing more detailed than that. Yeah, I'm doing good.
No. It's been a very regular week.
That's good.
I'm still battling with the everything shortage. I do battle with that every day.
Yeah, your industry is particularly affected by the everything shortage, is it not?
It is. It is. I can't buy. I'm going to great lengths and doing some things I'm not proud of to get chemicals right now.
I like prostitution.
Well, no, not quite that, but other things I'm not proud of.
Well, yesterday I had a huge trouble finding a 6x6 piece of lumber, a 6x6, which is a big piece.
Yeah.
Granted.
Yeah, it's a honker.
But usually they used to have them, and they'd have them in various lengths, And I'm doing this out of a Kia Soul,
right?
Carrying this piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I really just needed an 8-foot piece, which is the smallest they come. Didn't have them. They were like, we don't have a 10 either. Because a 10 maybe I could have used and kept the hatch open.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have a 12, but the lady was like, we have 5 6x6x20s.
Whoa.
And I said, that's a lot. And I was like, okay, but can you cut them in half? And they're like, no, we don't do that. Since when does Home Depot not cut lumber?
Lame.
Since when did they? And they had the machine right in front of me, like the cutting thing. I was like, it's right there.
They cut them for my wife.
Like, yeah.
Maybe you just need
to. Yeah, I know, but the guys that cut them, they don't work here anymore or whatever. I don't know. So I guess you got to be Home Depot certified on the cutting machine or something.
Yeah, probably.
So to avoid like cutting your fingers off.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest problem with Home Depot is that they put something on the shelf, they close off the whole aisle.
Yeah, and you got to stand there like a chump.
And it's always the one thing that you came to get.
Yeah.
They do that every time. It's some like large employee.
Well, they don't want to run over a child with the forklift.
I mean, I understand the point, but can't they do that like after, like before the store opens or after maybe? Because they're not like Walmart. They're not open 24/7, right?
Right.
Like Walmart stays open. And so if you go to Walmart at 2 a.m. to get ingredients for a cake, it makes sense that there are people restocking the shelves because they have to at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But Home Depot closes, right? And opens. And so they could have a rotation of people that just do that in the morning or in the evening.
Pull it together,
but
Home Depot.
Yeah, they're awful. And don't get me started on Lowe's.
Yeah.
It's so much worse than Home Depot. And we're not sponsored by Home Depot or Lowe's. Everyone knows this. But it's so much worse, it's incredible. But anyway, yes, you had a regular week.
Yes, I did.
That's good. That's good. You know, regular weeks are like the background rhythm of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you build the melody on top of it.
That's right.
You know, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Anyway, yeah, we may print $1 trillion platinum coin.
They threatened to anyway. I think McConnell has averted this.
Because for now.
For now.
They also threatened this in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And they threatened this, I believe, in like 99 or something silly.
I didn't know that this had been threatened before. I thought this was a new idea.
Oh, no. It's been bandied about because I wanted to discuss it because it's so stupid. And I may get some of the details wrong because it is confusing because it's all made up nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That has no bearing in reality and therefore there's no like logic train to follow.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a physics problem, if you go along, eventually you get an answer that doesn't make sense. And then you say, oh, right, that's because I did my math wrong here. So you go back and it's like, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you continue on. But with monetary policy, getting an answer that doesn't make sense is not an indication that you got the details wrong.
Same in epidemiology, apparently.
It's the same in that's how you know things are not real sciences versus real sciences.
Good point.
Because if you can't tell the difference between a nonsense answer and a real answer, then that means that your field of study is garbage. But so I may get some of these details wrong, but here's the basic idea. So at some point, the United States of America, the government, buys things. Yes, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. They buy things.
They buy things. Now to do that, they have a budget, and the budget is passed by Congress and then signed by the president.
Correct.
And the budget says, okay, U.S. Department of Treasury, you are supposed to buy, this budget says you're supposed to buy 70 billion tanks and a bunch of iPhones and some aborted fetal matter and some vaccines, some oil, and some windmills so we can pretend we didn't buy the oil. Right? That's how that works. And so, but to do that, you have to have money, right?
Right.
So where do they get their money? Well, one is taxes, but that doesn't cover all the things they want to buy. They never have enough in taxes to do it. So what they do instead is they do debt, which is why the debt of the United States goes up all the time. And they take debt from the Federal Reserve Central Bank, right? But there's like a rule in place. So the Federal Reserve can print as much money as it wants to, but has to issue treasury bonds for every dollar. Like there has to be a treasury bond dollar for every dollar they print.
Okay.
Right? So you have to, in some sense, you're making a deal like I'm printing this money now, but in the future, I will repay it.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. bonds, which is where most of our debt is held, and which is held mostly by other foreign countries, largely China, is now this astronomical number. Like it's bigger than the numbers Neil deGrasse Tyson uses to describe how far away stars are.
Yeah.
By orders of magnitude, right? and it's been that way for a while. And so what happened was American citizens were like, this doesn't seem good. Our debt is $70 bajillion. That seems bad. And they were like, yeah, but it's not really real, and it's sort of a game that we're playing, and it's not. They were trying to explain this to the American citizen, but the American citizen who has a personal budget and a household budget and to whom debt is a problem could not be convinced that this debt was fake.
Right.
Right? And so they kept complaining about it. So what they did was, at some point, they said, okay, we'll have a debt ceiling. And that means that's a compromise. We won't take on any more. We'll set a ceiling of debt. Like this is the most we can take on this year, right? Now that in itself is an inversion, because everything is an inversion in the upside down world. Because debt is like a hole more than it is a ceiling.
Oh, right. Should be a debt floor.
Like you get buried in a debt hole. You don't have you're not going up. So the debt ceiling is an imaginary cap on the debt that is actually an imaginary floor on a bottomless pit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how that. So you have this imaginary floor on the bottomless pit where they say, we will no more. No more. Right? No more debt. This year, that's the max. But every year, the budget. So they set the debt ceiling, and then they also vote on and pass the budget. And every year, without fail, they pass a budget that is beyond their debt ceiling. Right? They just vote to raise the debt ceiling.
They actually pass a continuing resolution because they can't pass a budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
They're incapable.
So there's like, it's a bit like, do you remember that children's book series, Frog and Toad?
I love Frog and Toad.
Frog and Toad. There was one where they were trying to not eat so many cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they baked the cookies. And Toad was like, we need to stop eating cookies. Frog was like, yes, I will put the cookies in this box. And he closes it. Now we will not eat any cookies. Toad says, after like a pause, but we can open the box. And like, you're right. And they open the box and eat more. That's what it is. It's like, well, they put a debt ceiling on there, but they're the ones with the key to also open the debt ceiling.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. Like it would have to be some other entity creating a debt ceiling that they would have to bargain with, right? But you're just locking your own door. You're putting money in a chest or you're putting debt in a chest and saying no more and locking it, but you still have the key. And then when you get tempted to do more, you just unlock it and put more debt in there. And that's what they do. And they do this all the time, forever. And then, for political reasons, every now and then, they like to make a show of something. What it is not clear. Sometimes the Republicans seem to be making a show of, we're the fiscally conservative ones. We're the adults in the room, and we know that there's budgets, limits to spending, right? And so they like to pass the continuing resolution, quote / budget, and then say, but we're not funding it, which is what they do,
right?
For political points. Or the point may be just to allow Democrats to feel self-righteous. I'm not sure what the point is. Like sometimes I think the Democrats ask the Republicans to play the bad guy so their base can feel self-righteous, and I think they're all just hand in hand. But that's what that's about. So, like in 2013, the Republicans were like, we're not raising the debt ceiling unless, and if you don't raise the debt ceiling, the budget can't go up and the government, quote unquote, shuts down. Now, when the government shuts down, does anything bad happen?
No.
Do any laws stop being enforced? No. Do the wars stop happening? No.
No.
Does nothing really happens except
they do. Now they do. This one really terrible thing happens. They leave the gates open at all the national parks, and you can just go in for free, which is a horrible tragedy.
It's a horrible what happens is all of the low-level government employees, like national park rangers, people that work at the VA,
they get furloughed.
They get furloughed without pay for a while. And that's all that means. And that's unfortunate for them, but but the government isn't in any real way shut down. That's another fake thing.
They always threaten, though, when these arguments come up, that they're gonna have to cancel Social Security payments. If we don't get this done, there's not going to be Social Security payment next month. And
it never
as if there's not other things that they could stop spending money on first.
Exactly.
It's such a joke.
None of it is in any way real. So, like in 2013, the Republicans were like, unless you repeal Obamacare, we will not raise the debt ceiling. And they had this specter of shutting down the government, right? I think they did for a few weeks.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great. And, of course, Obama was kind of keen on Obamacare. It was sort of his thing. And he didn't want to repeal it. So they talked about interesting solutions to get around this problem. And they talked about this before. This has been a specter in the U.S. government. This is why The Simpsons did a bit about it, $1 trillion bill, because since the 1960s, I think since 67, this has been a legal possibility.
Yeah.
Because what happened, and this is why they were like, it's not, the $1 trillion budget isn't going to cost anything. Because it wouldn't in this way, but this is just because all the money, it's all silly made up games. It doesn't, right? So there was a law passed. I forget the number of the law, but basically in the 60s that said, because all of the minting of U.S. currency is done by the Federal Reserve, except there was a bill in the 67, I think, definitely in the 60s, that said the Secretary of the Treasury may, at times he chooses, mint platinum coins of various denominations for special occasions. And it was intended to be like minting of commemorative coins.
Okay, right.
In platinum, right? Like a George Floyd coin.
Yeah.
We'll have a George Floyd coin, and on the other side it has Kyle Rittenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would flip it at football games while everybody kneeled. And that would be America. And everyone would sing America. But that was the intended purpose. However, the law was written very vaguely and just was like, can mint. And so there was no limit put on the denomination that one could put on there. So this is why I was talking about a platinum coin. Because, what if you're in... So if they won't raise the debt ceiling by the $1 trillion we need, right? If the evil Republicans won't raise the debt ceiling, why don't we just get the Treasury Department to mint a commemorative coin of $1 trillion?
Yeah, man.
Then the debt ceiling they have now will work fine because we're $1 trillion short. We'll mint $1 trillion coin, right? And here's the magic. We deposit it. It's just a regular coin. It says $1 trillion on it. We deposit it in the U.S. Treasury. Our balance sheet goes up by $1 trillion. And then we go through and it's fine. There's no need to raise the debt ceiling. Then, next go around, when the debt ceiling is inevitably raised, because it always will be, we use those debt bonds to purchase back the $1 trillion coin, and then we melt it, and it's like it never happened.
Which they would never, ever do.
Huh?
They would never, ever actually do that.
Right. That last part would never happen.
Right.
Because what would happen is they just mint another $1 trillion coin.
Right.
And then another, and these have these $1 trillion, $10 trillion coins. But the thing is, they've stopped. They haven't done that because yet. I sort of hope that they will, and I'm sort of confident they will eventually.
They should just do it.
Because that's just like the jump the shark moment.
Just do it, Treasury Secretary. I know you listen to the show.
Yeah. That's like, it's Fonzie on his jet skis jumping a great white shark.
Yeah. He really doesn't even need permission to do it. He can do it anytime he wants.
And he can do it anytime he wants.
Just do it, bro. Make 5.
So they never crossed that line because that is a clear signal to the normie American that something is amiss.
Mm-hmm.
Something is rotten in Denmark if you just print a $1 trillion coin and then put it, like, people, it's going to be hard to hide. Like, right now, it's so complex that most people will just assume it works out somehow, even though it doesn't. But that is sort of like such an in-your-face example of money being completely fake, right, and homosexual, that it's a problem. So they haven't done it yet. I hold out hope that they will. I think they probably will at some point. But the problem is that lays out 2 things for you there. One, the economy is just accounting. There's no value. There's no value in it per se. Like, it doesn't. It's not a reflection of value. It's just counting numbers for the sake of balancing books. Like, it is just a system that exists to balance itself. Like, it's a game made up where the sheet has to balance. Like, you just have to, and by balance, I don't mean you have to be in the black. I mean, you just have to account for it all. Like, it has to go somewhere. It's just like this crazy accounting game. And then 2, but then see, when you jump over that shark, you also say, well, why even bother accounting? Why don't you just print $1 trillion on a ferret? You could. There's nothing stopping you. Because, see, it's the same as the key with the box. It's Frog and Toad with the cookies in the box they can open. Because you're the one that wrote the law that said you could put $1 billion on a platinum coin. Why not on a copper coin? Why not on a zinc coin? Why on a coin at all? Just say, if the Secretary Treasurer carves a numeric value into an oak tree, that is how much money he has. And you could do that, and it would be legal tender.
I'm convinced that Steve Mnuchin's wife has $1 trillion coin that he minted for her, and they just take it out and laugh at it and drink champagne.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what Montgomery Burns had.
Yep.
He had the $1 trillion coin, or the $1 trillion bill that was printed by Eisenhower. Or no, who was it?
Yeah, I think it was Truman.
Yeah, Truman. And he would just keep it in a vault, like in a glass case, and go look at it until Castro stole it from him in that one episode. Yeah. So I think that if you were the treasurer, you would definitely mint yourself $1 trillion coin.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he probably has. But yeah, it just shows, like, it gives the game away if they do that. Like, it's that the game is laid bare. Like, the rules of this game, which are really not rules. There are rules, but they're all nonsense rules. Right? And So that's what the $1 trillion coin is about. I hope it comes true and they do it. I think one day they will. I think one day we'll get to a Zimbabwe situation where we're just like, yeah, it's, that loaf of bread is 70 quadrillion.
I bet like every president gets one. Because here's the thing, as long as you don't try to deposit it anywhere, it's not going to affect anything, right? So they can just, he can just print whatever he wants. I'm a trillionaire. Yee.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't even use it. Like that's the thing. Like it doesn't even mean anything. Like it's not. It really would only exist as like an accounting tool.
Right. You can't drop that sucker at Walmart and buy some corn pops.
No, you can't put it in the Coke machine.
Right.
And then it gives you. There's not enough change. Right. So it gives the game away, and that is. But the fact that it is just all it is just accounting for the sake of accounting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that's what the GDP is. That's what the economy is. Cause what is valuable? And because people conflate the money with the value. It isn't. There's now it's not unrelated. There is a conversion factor, but it's not a constant conversion factor, and sometimes it's not even present at all. So take for example, Cardi B. Okay. Is WAP valuable?
I mean, it's made her money.
Right. It's made her money, but what is it for? What's it do? It's not like you can't eat it. It doesn't produce anything. You can't live in it. You can't wear it. And it's not even a good song.
No.
Right? It's not even what is take Tesla. A company which, again, like Facebook and Twitter, makes no profit.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. They're always negative. Yet somehow, so if you got money because you were valuable, that wouldn't be possible, right? That you couldn't have a company continue to run that produced no excess.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, what Tesla produces is cars that are neat, but but few people are actually willing to pay for. Few being enough to make it worthwhile.
Right.
Right. And then he makes imaginary space rockets, also, to send those same cars imaginarily into space with a dummy driving them to go to Mars.
Right.
Right. But what the system... So people make this mistake of thinking that money is equated to value. But actually what it is, money rewards... Money is an indicator of attention and compliance. That's what money... That's what dollars... represent. It's like attention. Attention. The more eyeballs you have on you in general, the more easily money flows towards you. US dollars. Right?
Okay.
The more, and the system of accounting, which is the GDP, which is the economy, is a tool for enforcing societal compliance into whatever system they're trying to shape. So if your company, we talked about this last time or the time before, if your company toes the party line, they get free money, right? They get bailed out if they become quote unquote too big to fail.
Yep.
Right? If your company doesn't, if you're MyPillow, you got to actually sell pillows and keep your customers happy. Now, he doesn't sell pillows because he's too busy trying to find the tunnels underneath Dulce Airport Base or whatever.
Which is a noble goal.
It's a noble goal, but he's not... Mike Lindell has not been focused on pillows lately. Past year. I think it's fair to say.
Sure.
He's had his attention drawn elsewhere. And that attention, where his attention was drawn, is where his money and time went. Because that's what that is an indicator of. So, like, Cardi B gets money not for producing things that are valuable, but for attracting attention and for creating entertainment, quote unquote, that pushes the Babylon worldview. It pushes, and so that gets you that's how people get money, right? So when you see that it's all like an accounting game, right? But well, I think we just need to talk about 666 because this all comes together.
Okay,
there's a reason for all of this, right? Let's play the clip of Biden a couple of weeks ago.
Coming right up.
You're going to ask me 1,000 different questions, and they're all legit. I'm telling you, we're going to get this done. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks. We're going to get it done.
Why is it so challenging to unite your party, Mr. President?
Okay, 6 minutes, 6 days, 6 weeks. That sort of thing happens a lot in the public sphere if you pay attention. Most people don't pay attention. It's because they're too busy, and it's also a weird thing to look for if you don't have this mind set. But the number 666, politicians will have phrases where they will talk about 6 3 times. It shows up in various laws, shows up in various symbols in culture. It shows up all the time, and I don't think, for the most part, it is a conscious thing. I think it is just the way reality functions. So, we all know that 666 is related to Mark of the Beast, Satanism, all of that stuff, right?
Right.
But do we know why?
I don't know why.
Do we know why? I've thought about this a while. I've researched this a bit, and I have some answers, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But so what is that? Where does it come from? It's like 666 is in Revelations, right, in the Bible, and it's talking about the beast and the Antichrist and all of these things which come up out of the sea, and they have 7 heads and 10 horns and all this crazy imagery, right?
Yeah.
And then the writer says something to the effect, I don't know the exact quote, here is wisdom, let the reader reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number, and it is the number of a man, a human number, and its number is 666. Now, you know about gematria, yes?
Yes. It's a numerology thing, right?
It's a numerology thing. It's a Hebrew numerology thing. There's another one in Greek that you can do with. It's called like, I don't remember the name of it in Greek, but it's the same idea, which is that in most ancient languages, there was no different characters for letters and numbers. So like, if we were to do that in English, A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3, and so on, right? To a point, what they would do is they go to 10, and then like in Hebrew and in Greek, then they would say the 11th letter now, or the 10th letter now means 10, and then the 11th means 20, and the 12th means 30, and then the 20th would be 100, right?
Right.
And then you would go from there, and then you could put them together, and that would be a number. So if you wanted to write 23, you would write the letter that was the 20th place, and then the letter for 3, the like C.
Okay.
Right? And that's how that would work. And gematria was this idea, very popular in ancient times. Many of the church fathers explicitly interpreted the texts through this lens. Not something we do very much today. Maybe we should. But so it was this idea that every word, every name also had a numerical value, and vice versa. Every number had a name or a sound associated with it. And so there are actually 2 ancient manuscripts floating around of Revelations. And they give 2 different numbers for the mark of the beast. 666 and 616. And so a lot of people have used this to conclude that this means that, and I think they're right to an extent, 666 means Emperor Nero of Rome.
Okay.
Because if you write Nero Caesar in Hebrew, its gematria name is 666. But there's a problem, which is the way that you do that is sort of it's not correct Hebrew. It's Hebrew using like a Greek insert.
Okay.
Like a Greek way of pronouncing the name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, if you do it straight Hebrew, Emperor Nero comes out, or Nero Caesar comes out to 616.
Okay.
It's almost like 2 different people. So like one person was copying it down and was like, "Oh, they did the grammar wrong. This would actually be 616 if you pronounced it correctly." And then they just altered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were like thinking like, "Oh yeah, it's Nero." And that's true. I think that's correct. Like certainly the beast has been connected with the great empires, the powers of the world, Babylon, Rome.
And I mean Nero and the destruction of Jerusalem, a lot of that.
Right.
A lot of that fits really nicely into the narrative of Revelation.
Exactly. 100%. So, but it's not just that, right? It's not just that, because one, it's symbolic of like the beast system, like Babylon, archetypal Babylon, which would be maybe Rome in its time, the British Empire in its time, maybe America now, right? Is this thing. Now, the interesting thing is in that quote, "This calls for wisdom, let him who has understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number." Reckon, the word translated in English as reckon, is very accurately translated, because reckon traditionally meant to calculate. So like, what they're actually saying is let him calculate the number of the beast. So he's giving you this, and he's almost like, now you figure it out. It's like a riddle, right? So it points to like Emperor Nero, but also it has a much larger connotation. Because 6 is a human number. It's the number of man, because man was made on the 6th day. And this was very symbolically understood in the past. Like the sun and the moon, right? Or light was 1, because it was made on the 1st day.
Okay.
And so 7 was the divine number, because that was the day on which God rests, right?
Right.
And 6 is the number of man. It's the end of creation. It's the end of work. There's 6 days of work, then a pause. And so if you just simply view 666 as like this dark thing with like heavy metal bands and black eye makeup, you're not going to see it, because it actually in practice presents as a very clean, a very immaculate, a very appealing concept that has a big problem in it, right? So so there's 6, which is the number of man, right? And 666 is sort of like 6 on steroids. It's like the well, first of all, it's a Trinity idea, and I know this sounds weird, but this is what the ancient people were thinking like, because they didn't geometry, shapes, words, numbers that were all sort of viewed as the same.
Okay.
Because it was also so, like I said, there was numbers, like we talked about on that one show. Certain numbers were associated with different shapes based on the sum of their angles, right?
Yep.
So like 18 would be a triangle because 180, if you just take off the zeros, is the number of sum of the angles in that shape. So if you had a name that summed 18, you were the same as it was like your name meant triangle also. Okay. Which is a crazy concept for us. But this is how ancient people thought. So like 666 and like an equilateral triangle, each angle is 60. Right? Which is why the Masonic triangle is always an equilateral triangle. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6 on each side. Also, 60. So, but it's also symbolic, and I'm not making this up. This comes from like church fathers and stuff, because one of them, when the Apocrypha serves as like the 616 problem. What happens is eventually someone comes along and is like, but this is the correct. Like the Apocrypha helps you understand it because the person changes it to like clarify what's happening.
Okay.
Right? Like you wouldn't know about the Nephilim, what the Nephilim were from just the Bible. You need all the Apocryphal texts to understand what they're talking about because they go through and they clarify, right? And that's what's happening. Like, so the 616 really cements, because you can get Caesar Nero from both of them. That's probably one of the people they were talking about. But one of the church fathers, I think it was Father, I don't remember his name, but he says, no, the real number of the beast is 666. And that's been the tradition ever since. Because his reasoning is thus. There were 6 days of creation, right? Then from creation to Noah were 600 days, 600 years. And then from Noah to the end of time, the end of what they thought when the end of the world would happen would be 6,000 years. 6,000, 600, and then 6, so 666.
Okay.
Right? And that's how and that would be the fulfillment of, if work was completed in 6 days, the fulfillment of the great work would be completed in 6,606 days. Right? Because what it is, this is why it's an accounting thing. This is why the GDP is accounting. This is why the economy is accounting. This is why you can just make up $1 trillion bills. It's the completion. The B system is the completion of work that leaves nothing out. It's a totalizing. It's a system that wants to account for everything. It wants to leave nothing to chance. It's a system without any faith at all. So like like you can imagine, like there's work and then there's a pause where God just sort of says, like God isn't tired. He's just like, well, we made this, let it roll.
Yeah.
See what it does. And in tradition, that's when he goes away for the day to rest and just let creation go, is when the serpent comes to Eve. Because you let it go, and then sometimes it doesn't go good when you do that. But you have to do that in order for the thing that you made to be actually alive and have free choice. Because if you're just controlling everything all the time, you didn't really make anything. Because a perfectly known future is the same as the past. Like it already happened. There is no future.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's this weird sort of mystical idea where like you have to make it and then sort of close your eyes and just let it run. And then you can open them again and look. It's this sort of idea going on. So the work is without that pause. It's without like saying, okay, we did some stuff. Like when you make a garden, you do the work, you till, you plant, and then you just have to let it be. And it has to grow on its own.
Right.
Now, you can't force the plant to grow. You create the conditions in which it's favorable. You encourage it to grow. But you can't, and that's how like life works. Like that's like how growth happens, is it just has to come of itself. But what if you didn't like that? What if you wanted to, you didn't have that pause, we're now, okay, we did it and now it has to go. What if you didn't want to have faith that things would work out and you just wanted the 6, the work, you just wanted to control everything, right? Well, what you would get is a system which tried to account for all that there was in a very detailed way by marking it all and leaving nothing out, which is why the beast gives marks, because everything has to be accounted for. This is why right now, like this is why I make a case that right now you can make a stronger argument that the current vaccine passports are a mark of the beast than you could of anything in living memory.
Yes.
Right? Because of this. Because we live in a culture obsessed with accounting for the margins, like all of the people on the outskirts, all of the things on the outskirts. Like this is why the LGBT letters keep expanding, because like, oh, we didn't include that, we didn't include that, we didn't include that, we didn't include two-spirit people, asexuals, demisexuals, whatever. We slam on more letters, add more colors to that crazy flag, and then the only thing that is really, it's like, it's a world that's all about margins that has no center. It just wants to include, the only value is to account for all of it. You don't want anything outside the system. And the only sin is not wanting to be a part of the system.
Yeah.
That's the only sin, right? Because there is no sin other than the system is all encompassing. It includes everyone, all identities, all values, all the only thing it can't handle is things that don't want to be inside of it. Which is why they have to outcast those who don't take the mark, because you can't, by definition, you can't be in the system and not be accounted for. The system is total. The system is all. The system has no faith, does not want to have Sunday where things just let it roll and you trust in the goodness of creation and the goodness of people to do the right thing. It has to make sure, right? It has to. This is why in Celtic tradition, you could divert the fairies by putting a maze over your house, or by having a bunch of an intricate, like part of the Celtic knot patterns were so that you would confuse demons. Because the idea was demons basically had OCD, or were OCD, and they had to work out how the knot worked. Like if they came across something that was hard to count and account for, they would have to focus all their energy on figuring it out. Like if you had one tradition was just you had a jar of sand in front of your door, and then if the demon came, they'd have to count all the grains. Because they couldn't, and it would be like this impossible task, and it would occupy them doing that and not attacking you.
Interesting.
Because that is the spirit of the is it wants to know, it doesn't want to leave any stone unturned, because it's afraid if it does that there's something under the stone that will bite them when they're not looking. See, it's a system completely without faith, so it has to account for everything. It needs an Internet of Things. It needs a World Wide Web. It needs you to be logged. It needs you to be tracked, because it's low chance, but you might be a terrorist. We don't know. You might be sowing discord about the system. You might be, not giving your fair share, whatever that may mean in the moment. Even, and we don't, that could bite us. That could hurt us. It's a system born completely out of fear of the unknown. And so it needs to know everything. It needs to know all things. And so what happens is, if you pay attention, this number shows up a lot in the world, in various ways, like Biden saying 6 months, 6 weeks, or 6 days.
World Economic Forum logo.
World Economic Forum logo, the Google Chrome logo.
Yeah.
If you look at that, now the question is this all conscious decision making? Some of it certainly probably is. A lot of it is probably not. Like for instance, for instance, not Bill Gates, but Microsoft took out a patent last year. Do you know this? They do a lot. But
yeah, they do a lot of patents.
This was a patent for, quote, this is what it described, quote, cryptocurrency system using body activity data.
Okay.
Here's the description. Human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. So I'm not sure what that could mean. Maybe like
your measured bodily movements provide random.
Yeah, it's mining.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound like hell?
Yeah.
You're measured. You have to do this task, and then you mine cryptocurrency. That sounds like hell. Okay. So a server, and then continuing, a server may provide a task to a device of a user, which is communicatively coupled to the server. A sensor communicatively coupled or comprised in the device of the user may sense body activity of the user. Body activity data may be generated based on the sensed body activity of the user. The cryptocurrency system communicates with the coupled device of the user, may verify the body activity data, satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system, and award cryptocurrency to the user whose body activity data is verified. So that sounds like hell. That sounds like something terrible. That's like every time you put your fist in the air to make a black power fist, you get cryptocurrency.
Oh man.
Right? You could do that. Or like every time you speak certain words, you get cryptocurrency. And if you don't, then maybe you don't get the cryptocurrency, or maybe you get negative. Maybe you get negative money.
Yeah.
See? But again, it's just an accounting game. Now, could this be, I don't know, connected to a vaccine passport system in some way? It certainly sounds like it. Have they described mRNA technology as a, quote, operating system for the body? Yes, they have. Because you can use it to write all kinds of things into your proteins.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since the vaccine passport is in many places connected to apps, which are almost always called wallets, by the way. They're like in Europe, the green health pass or whatever in like Canada and stuff is created by companies that make crypto wallets.
Yeah, and that's where your health data. Apple's already announced that they're putting room in the wallet, in the Apple Wallet, for your health information.
For your health data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your personal economy will be tied, if this system goes through, if this is their desire, to your bodily functions, which is not a good. I don't think it's good, but see, they love it because that leaves no stone on anything they can codify, anything they can mark, anything they can label, anything they can account for. Increases the GDP, because the GDP is, and the economy is just accounting. It's just accounting. That's all it is. it's not a measure of the productivity of goods and services produced by the population in the country. Not in any way is it that. It is how good are you at accounting? And the places that are the best at accounting have the best GDP. This is why, quote unquote, backwards places like African countries don't have the best GDP because not everything is controlled as much.
Yeah.
If you accounted for it all, you don't have to produce anything else, right? You just account for it. Like the people in Africa, on average, have enough calories. They have places to live, but they're like the real value, like the things that promote life and keep people alive, are arguably better because they have more population growth. They have more in value of what it takes to live and grow and reproduce, which is what life is about. But in terms of currency, they're very poor because they can't, or they don't choose to account for everything. And that's all it is. It's a system of accounting, right? Now, but here's the thing. What do you think the patent number of that Microsoft patent was?
I'm guessing it had some sixes in it.
It had some sixes in it. It was WO 2020, which is for the year 060606. And as we know in numerology, you can ignore the zeros. So it is just the tail end 666. Now, so the thing that could arguably be the patent for the Mark of the Beast technology is labeled 666. Now, did someone do that consciously? I seriously doubt it. I think it's just how the world works. Like from the foundation of the world, it had to happen this way or something. Like I think there are, and consider what that might mean for things like free will and how, like I think there might be like inflection points that must happen. Right? So like God from the beginning of time has knowledge of and he knows the major plot points that have to occur. Boom, boom. But then how you get there, not that he doesn't know, but you're sort of free to choose how you get to them. And how you get to them matters a lot. But like, you will get to the time of your death one way or another. Whether you lived your life well and did good, and then got there, or you did poorly, but you'll end up at basically dying at the same time.
Okay.
Is my opinion. In most cases, and or in other major life events for you that have been planned out, like you have to hit those. But then it's like you're playing in a band and there's the angels are keeping time and you have to hit the certain rhythm, like boom, like every fourth beat you have to hit a thing, like boom, boom. But in between is sort of like you can choose. That's how I sort of thread the needle of free will and fate, right? I think it's something like that.
Okay.
So I think that's just like the mark of the beast had to appear or has to appear on the thing which it is. Like it has to have that same number. So if this was the thing, it has to have the sixes on it. But then consider like the knock-on effects. That means like if these numbers are assigned in order, and they are, or randomly maybe, I think, but that means 060605, that guy had to be influenced to file his patent at a certain time so that this one would be the sixth. And then all the way back into history, right? So if this is how it works, it's mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. How that could happen. But again, let's look at another one, right? Okay, so as part of the proposed OSHA change that Biden spoke of, that would require 100 people, companies of over 100 people to be vaccinated. It is actually a change. It's a proposed change, which hasn't gone through yet, by the way. It's a proposed change to a 1970s Section 17 law about OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. It has a subsection A would be changed. So here are the changes. A would be changed by striking 70,000 and inserting 700,000. These are fines listed. B, 5,000 would be changed to 50,000. Subsection B, 7,000 would be changed to 70,000. So basically, it's increasing the fines you pay to try and force people to comply, because people might be like, I can handle $7,000, but not 70,000.
Right. Yeah.
So this provision would change existing laws related to OSHA's enforcement fines. The very same section of law whose fines OSHA was referenced in its healthcare worker bill. Now, this law was written in 1970, but what was the number of that law? 29 USC 666.
Oh.
So, do you see, like, if it happens this way, there's an organizing principle causing the dominoes to fall in a certain manner that is so complex, it is completely beyond our ability to reckon. Which is why I think ancient cultures recognized this. They saw these patterns happen. And so they would do things like divination, where they would try to read tea leaves, like see how things, because they believed there was this organizing force, things were falling according to, dominoes were falling. So maybe if you drop things like tea leaves, or you scattered feathers, or you watched birds fly, you could like glimpse it. You could like maybe catch a glimpse of like, oh, there's the pattern. Right?
So like the controlling pattern that is prevailing in an area or over a person or over a time is going to drop clues.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that works. Like, I think there are people today practicing like geomancy and stuff who can give you interesting predictions that often come true. Not many of these people exist today, but they're there. And so the idea being, whatever the organizing principle is, if you introduce some randomness into it, the randomness will, before it settles, like if you throw tea leaves or you throw dice, this is casting lots, right? You throw dice or whatever. The randomness will, before it settles, conform to the pattern.
It's like the sand table thing where you put a speaker under a table and throw a bunch of sand on it.
Perfect analogy.
Depending on the frequency, it will produce different patterns reliably.
Perfect analogy. So it's like, how do we see the frequency? Throw sand. It's like throw sand. See where it lands. We're on like a giant vibratory thing, and it will show you the pattern, and then you can have a better idea about what is going on and what the future may hold. And
so when you see people or institutions or whatever throwing out 666 patterns, pay attention to that. Is that sort of
exactly. Like when you see this pattern continue to recur, you then like maybe that's happening for a reason, you know. And I don't, like I said, the pattern is very complex. I can't give you exactly what's going to happen. I can't make firm predictions. I'm just saying keep your eyes open, because this is a little bit beyond coincidental. Like, for instance, Bill Gates, guy pushing the thing, in ASCII 2, if you type Bill Gates III, Bill Gates III, in American Standard Code for Information Exchange, ASCII 2, or ASCII rather, Bill Gates III adds up to 666.
Ooh.
As does Bill Gates' son. They both add up to 666. Like in Biden's campaign slogan, and I don't want this to be an anti-Biden rant, like but whatever, he's just this old guy with dementia doing weird things. But remember that thing, he had 2020, and then it said, if you want to get involved, text to number 30330. Remember this?
Yeah, it's
there. He had these signs. 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you take the 2020 and you were to divide by 666, you would get like 30.33. You get the same number that was on that board.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Right? And like I doubt seriously people did that on purpose. Maybe someone did. But okay. In Ireland, abortion was made legal on December 20th, 2018. Right? By the end of the year 2019, in the year 2019, Ireland then performed exactly 6,666 abortions.
Ew, man.
Right? But see what must be happening. Like, if that's so, there are patterns influencing our lives well beyond our comprehension. Like crazily beyond, like if what I'm saying is any grain of truth to it, and maybe it isn't, but if you do gematria in English, which is of questionable validity, because we don't have a 10 system in place, like where the 11th letter is then 10 and then the 12th is 20 or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But if you just do 1 through 26, Corona, right, adds up to 66, and Corona has 6 letters, right? The Walt Disney logo, sort of, if you look at it, is like because it's weird in that weird cursive way.
Mm-hmm. Looks
like a 6, and then the D is like a backwards 6. And then they write Y in a weird way, so it looks like a 6. The recent Anti-Racism and Public Health Act of 2021, House resolution, hence HR, is HR 666. Right? So you see this over and over again. Like I said, the Google Chrome logo. This is probably one of the more blatant ones. I think that this has a great video of a little church lady at some sort of convention talking about this, the Monster Energy drinks. Have you seen this? Lady?
No.
She's sitting there. She's got a package of Monster Energy, and she's clued into this. She's like seen it in the packaging somehow. Like she was just like walking through. It's like,
okay.
And she's giving this she's like, and then she's like a little church lady sound. She's just going off like me, and it's hilarious, but also she's true. She's 100% right. Like Monster Energy, first of all, their motto is Unleash the Beast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But those 3 claw marks, on the can, those are exactly, it's not even a squint. If you know Hebrew, those are exactly the Hebrew letter Vav.
Which is the 6th letter.
Which is the 6th letter. It's 666. Like to a person reading Hebrew, if you just covered up the English around it, it's like that's just 666. It's not even close.
It's and the motto is Unleash the Beast.
And the motto is Unleash the Beast.
Wow, man.
And so now also, and this is I know this has been like every barcode has the mark of the beast on it. All of them forever, all time.
What?
I know. Now, people familiar with this conspiracy right now are shouting, debunked! 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 Because it's a theory that's been around since the barcode was invented and was first used. And people have been debunking it for just as long. But let me just get ahead of you and say, not really debunked. Depends on how you look at it. So the barcode as it exists today was invented by Joe Woodland and George Laurer, which I have trouble saying for some reason, who were employees at IBM in the golden era of IBM, back when it was like Tesla or Amazon.
Yeah.
Also a company of questionable profits, even though they controlled everything.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, the mark is used as a thing to buy and sell, because on whose inscription is this coin and whose picture and inscriptions on this coin, it's give to Caesar what Caesar's. Like this is the coin, the currency, the accounting is that is what the demons do, because they lack faith totally. And they're scared of anything under the rock that might get them. They have to account for everything. They need total control. The accounting is the system, right? So that's why it's used to. That's why the means of enforcement is preventing the buying or selling. That's why it has to be that. So barcodes have 2 parts, more or less. There's a front section and a back section containing different kinds of information that can be assigned to the product. So like you can use the front, you can use it to assign any information you want, but like let's just imagine the front section of the barcode is used for the manufacturer, and the back is for the specific item. So like this is from Nestle and it's Oreos, or it's Nestle and it's Nesquik, right? And it's this specific brand, and then you would scan it, and your thing would be like, at our store, we charge this much for that, and it would pop up on the register, right?
Yep.
Okay, so in order for the laser to pick up where the barcode is, it needs 3 lines or 3 lines. So it needs a front line that tells it where the start is, an ending line that tells it where it stops. It needs a middle section to separate those 2 parts. Now, technically, those bars are not scanned as numbers in the computer.
Okay.
Because they're just used as guide marks. However, they are the same width of blackness bars separated by the same width of white bars as are the number 6 in barcode.
Ooh.
So visually, to the human eye, if you know how to read barcode, and I knew a man who had taught himself how to read barcode visually.
That's impressive.
He was that kind of person. And you were to cover up the bottom, because what they do is they extend a little too far down, the guide bars. They go a little bit below the other bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it separates them. But if you were to cover that up, it just visually it looks like 666, like beginning, middle, end in all of them. So take that for, like, the scanner, it's true, doesn't register 666, but visually it appears as 6s.
That's wild.
Does that count? I don't know. But the theory isn't, it isn't debunked outright. It's now George Lauer, the guy that invented the barcode, he had this to say on it. He said, "All this is pure bunk," he said, "and is no more important than the fact that my first, middle, and last name all have 6 letters." And I was like, George, I don't know. It's the best counter argument if you really understand what's going on here. I don't know. That's the best counter argument.
So his only point is, I didn't do it on purpose.
Right. And that's what people think. Like, they think it has to be purposely done. But there are forces at work on you and in the world that, like, make it so the law used in 2021, which was passed in 1970, has 666 on it. Like, there are forces way beyond our comprehension guiding human affairs.
So, and as this particular force is like moving according to its purposes, it's throwing off these 666s.
It's just
like
because they have to fall. And it's not even like throwing off. I mean, it is throwing off 666s, but I think it's even more crazy. I think it's like the pattern of an equilateral triangle or something crazy. Like, it's like that pattern is like going through, and it's just like, because that's there, it plays out as 6. It's something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. Like, if you could see with the eyes of angels, you would see this amazingly textured melody of creation, of all these vibratory frequencies of protons, and they're playing out, and they're all playing a harmonious sound with discord thrown in. Like, there are angels playing off, the demons are playing off on purpose. But God, the master conductor, this is what Tolkien was talking about in his creation myth was that he wrote for Lord of the Rings, was that happened, and the evil character, the evil demon, was purposely singing off key, and the master conductor was then using his free will to sing off key to then weave it in so that it still sounded good.
Oh.
Right? It still made a beautiful picture in the end, even though he had chosen to sing off. And so that's what you do. That's what we can do. Like, there are the inflection points in the grand song that must occur, and then but how you get there is up to you. And it matters how you get there. Like, it affects you. So there is free will, but there's also like these things going on that are so, probably wouldn't, it's almost impossible to like talk about. It's so complicated. And it has to be, you know? But, all right, numerically, let's look at 666. Okay, like, just as a number, the mathematical significance. So there's a number. Well, first of all, there's a number called the golden ratio. You've heard of this, I'm sure, listener. You've heard of this, Smokestack.
Yes, with the rectangles.
It's also called the divine proportion. It was called the divine proportion. because before it was called the golden ratio, and it's represented by the Greek letter phi. Okay, so the golden ratio pops up over and over again all over nature all the time. It's in flowers, it's in trees, conch shell spirals, in your own human anatomical proportions. It's like the default ratio of nature. So, briefly, imagine you have two links, A and B, right? So A and B are in divine proportion if A plus B is to A as A is to B. Or mathematically, if A plus B over A is equal to A over B, A plus B, if parentheses A plus B over parentheses A plus B, close parentheses, over A is equal to A over B, then that's the golden ratio. Okay. And that's like the length of your arms compared to your legs. It's like the width of your eyes compared to the spacing of your ears. It's all over. It happens like this is how things happen. This is the Fibonacci sequence. Because the Fibonacci sequence goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. So like 5 is the next sequence because the previous two were 3 and 2, and 3 and 2 equals 5. Then 8 because 3 and 5 equals 8. Then 13 because 5 and 8 equals 13. So it's the next number is the sum of the previous two numbers. Okay. Forever, right? Like I said, faces have this divine ratio, both human and non-human faces. Flowers have it. Flowers pretty much only have petals in the numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. So they may have 2, or 3, or 5, or 8. Like clovers and lilies have 3, except for the odd 4-leaf clover. Buttercups have 5. The chicory flower has 21, which is one of the Fibonacci sequence. And there are other flowers which have 34 or 55. But they pretty much, flowers in general, can only seem to have the number of petals in the Fibonacci sequence, which is crazy, but true. Galaxies we see through telescopes in the arrangement of the stars follow this ratio. Hurricane spirals match the Fibonacci sequence. DNA. The DNA molecule measures 34 micrometers long by 21 micrometers wide, which are both numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. 34 and 21 are, the ratio of them is the golden ratio, 1.619.
Oh, wild.
It's all over. It's everywhere. Like if you want to measure things in nature which are harmonious and work together, you can bet pretty solid money they will be operating. And that's another example of this patterns. Like, so this ratio is like there, and then life is conforming to it, right? Even though you can't see it. It's like this invisible pattern. Okay. So if that's the divine proportion in the cosmos, the created order is established by that number. What do we do? What about 666 then? 666. Well, and this may seem a little convoluted to you, but it's not really. If you have looked at because remember I talked about triangles. This is like the triangle and the 666, the three of them. If you're a little familiar with numerology, this doesn't sound as arbitrary. The sine of 666 degrees and the cosine of 6 times 6 times 6 degrees is the same. They're the same number, right? Which is minus 0.809169943. 7. So if you add the sine, remember these are triangle functions, like what is it? The sine is the hypotenuse over the whatever, and the cosine is the other with the adjacent, right? So if you add the sine of 666 plus the cosine of 6 times 6 times 6, same number, and if you add those together, you get minus 1.61803. You get the negative golden ratio exactly.
Ooh.
To apparently infinite digits. It's like the inverse of the golden ratio. It's like the exact negative. It's the negative golden ratio.
Is the procedure you went through to arrive at the inverse of the golden ratio, is that a procedure that's used for things? I mean, is that something you do in math?
It's like Well, I mean, it is if you understand that in numerology, the 666 and 6 times 6 times 6 are symbolically the same.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I just wanted a coherent reason to do the procedure.
Yeah, it's hard. And so that's now also interestingly, and people that are gamblers probably know this. 666 shows up in the roulette wheel, the European one, not the American one, because the American one has 2 zeros and the European one has 1. The Monte Carlo roulette wheel. So the Monte Carlo roulette wheel has 37 slots, 0 to 36. So you include the 0, you get 37, right? And it was invented by a guy named Francois Blanc. And there's a legend surrounding him, passed around by gamblers. It is said he made a deal with the devil for the secrets of roulette, because the sum of all the numbers on a roulette wheel, 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, all the way to 36, add to 666. Right? And it does that because, again, going to this triangles thing, this 666 is itself what is known as a triangle number. So, which it's probably not familiar with. It's one of these things mathematicians play with. Like people that do numerical analysis and stuff, like just figuring out like the weird patterns that are in numbers.
Yeah.
But triangle numbers are like, so it's basically, it's this concept. You're like, what does that even do? But it's a thing that's been around forever. If you just have the points of a triangle and then you add more triangles by making that same, this is hard to explain, but you have 3 points, right? So 3 is a triangle number, right? Okay, well then if you wanted to make a bigger triangle, keeping the same spacing of points, then you would need that triangle, then you need 1 at the bottom, then you'd inverse 1 for the middle of the next row, and then you flip it back over. Sound reasonable?
Is this the thing that Chad Wolf posted to us the other day? Okay, so if you have I'm drawing this out.
Yeah.
You put 1 circle on a piece of paper, and then beside it, to the right, you put 2 circles on top of each other. That's going to make a triangle composing of 3 points. And then if you go to the next space to the right and do 3 circles on top of each other, that's going to make a triangle composed of 6 points. And then you just continue on. So the first number in the triangle is 3, and the second number is 6, and the pattern goes on from there. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And 666 is a triangle number, which is, if you really think about it, is why the roulette wheel sums to that also. But so triangle numbers show up again. What's the main actual practical application? People have been thinking about triangle numbers for ages, right? But just playing around with them, but they haven't actually had a use until networking, computer networking.
Oh.
Right. A fully connected network of N computing devices, so N is the number, requires the presence of triangle number N minus 1 cables or other connections. This is how, like, we have N computing devices. How many cables or connections do we need? Well, you need the triangle number N. So if you have 4 computing devices, you need the 4th triangle number minus 1. So you need the 3rd triangle number. Make sense? Okay. So if I have 5 computing devices, N minus 1 is 4, so I need the 4th triangle number. Cables. And that's it shows up in things like that. Also, when you draw them out graphically, the 5th triangle number gives you the shape of the pentagram. This is all, and I know that people are like, but I'm telling you, these patterns are there, and they're playing out, and the reason these things show up over and over again in math, in music, in creation, in politicians' words, in patent numbers, is because there is like a timekeeping, like a 4/4 beat, like boom, 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 that's playing, causing things to fall to it, just like your example of sand on a speaker. Like it just is shaking it down. Now you get to choose where you fall in that pattern. So if you got a beautiful pattern of sand because of the speaker making a sound, you can choose where you are in it, but you have to be in it somewhere. Right? And I think that's sort of how free will and fate go together. I'm not claiming that for certain, but it's something. It's something there. So, anyway, all this to say, the system is about accounting, and that's what it gets money to. It's not about value. It's not about who produces things that are useful or good. It's about accounting and conforming to the accounting. And that's why you can print $1 trillion, because it doesn't matter as long as the books balance. Because the only thing that matters to the demons and to those that follow them is that we control things because they might hurt us if we don't. That's what Caesar Nero was about. That's why he was a tyrant, because he was afraid, right? And that's what all that he's archetypal of the man who is the bearer of the beast system. And
that attitude has really been on display over the past year and a half as the people trying to exercise control over others are the people that are the most afraid. And that scales down from the people trying to make you get vaccinated even though you don't want to get vaccinated, all the way up to the leaders of the nations of the world.
100%. And it's exactly so, right? And that happens when people can let things ride. You can have Sunday, you can have the rest day, you can have the day where you close your eyes and don't worry about it. When they believe in God, when they believe that there is a greater organizing pattern that will cause things to go toward the right, the good, the beautiful, and the true. When they don't believe that, when they don't have faith in that, they will attempt to control everything. Now, the irony is they're still falling in that grand pattern, because the divine songmaster, the divine conductor, is weaving their choices into the pattern anyway. That's the irony. Like, you don't get out of it. You just live in it in hell. Like, you live in the depression of the pattern at the very bottom of the deepest pit of it. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. So that's what 666 is about, and that's why you should be careful. Be thinking about, like, it's not what you think it. It's not like this. It's not guys in black eye makeup playing heavy metal. It appears as like Satan appears as an angel of light. And that's what it's like AI. We're going to make this God out of a machine, and it's going to account for everything. The Internet of Things. Then there won't be any surprises anymore, and we can control it all, and you don't have to die, and we can live forever. And it's the completion of work without, see that actually cannot work, because you need the space, you need the seventh day, you need the rest, just like music needs rest notes. Otherwise it becomes incoherent. Like, then the pattern falls apart. And so that this will fall apart, but it can cause a lot of pain as it collapses. Merry Christmas. It's a happy message to end on. Felt everyone learned a lot today.
It was very informative.
Did we learn a lot, listeners? Oh, you know what, listener? Listen, you need to do something, listener. Are you prepared?
Yes, I'm prepared.
Good. I want you to right now pause the show. Wait, no, not right now. Wait till I tell you what to do, because that would make no sense. When I say pause, next, not now. When I say it next, do it, and then do the thing. You need to send a link to this show to one friend of yours on your phone app. And you go to and you click copy share, and you share it with somebody who you think would enjoy the podcast. Because and I know this is annoying to ask for, but we've discovered that the reason podcast people do this is because that's one of the primary ways you share the podcast. So, ready? Pause. Boom, 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 ba-doom, boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ba-doom, boom, 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 ba-doom, boom, boom. And now you're back. And I hope you did it. I hope you did it. And thank you for doing it.
Thank you. We're going to assume that you did. And thank you for sharing the show.
Yeah, we're
going
to assume you did. If you didn't, then give our thanks back. We'll pause for that too. Ready? Pause. All right, we receive our thanks back.
Yep.
Unpause. Yes, and everyone, try to. You know what you should also do? If you didn't do that, you can make it up to us by subscribing to the St. Nicholas Project on Gum Road, because we're trying to put those out more often now. We put out 4 this week. That's pretty good.
You've been cranking on the St. Nicholas Project.
I want to give people their value. Now, the St. Nicholas Project, as I said, it's a way to support the podcast that isn't just straight donations on Patreon, because I find that a little weird. I want to just give people something for their money. So, but it's a more intimate podcast. It's not as it's shorter. It's like 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 25. I think I went to 25 one this week. Where I talk about something a little more focused topic. Just a little. They're still good, I think. I think they're still interesting for most people. They're still like good ideas. I'm not going to say my ideas are good. They're ideas. But it helps the podcast tremendously. And we thank you so much for it. And it actually helps you not be the inverse of the divine proportion. Did you know that? If you sign up,
there's a lot of benefits to this thing.
You're actually less likely to take the mark of the beast. A lot of people don't know that. There's a fringe benefit. Is that true? It could be. It could be. I'm not claiming for certainty it is. But it may save you from hell. We don't know. Who knows?
Hey, while we've got a little time left on the show, I actually have a third clip prepared.
Do you? What was the third clip?
Well, you don't know. You don't know about this.
Oh,
so,
it's a secret clip.
It's a secret clip. So,
okay,
but the BBC has done something really nice for all of us. The BBC this week.
I thought you said the QVC, and I was like, oh,
the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes.
Really cares about you, and apropos of really nothing going on in current events, big world happenings, big stories, big controversies, not having to do with any of that. They just wanted you to sort of be aware of this thing that could happen to you. And,
you sent me this, and I tried to watch it, but I waited so long they'd pulled it from YouTube.
Well, I ripped the audio. So
good. This was like a BBC commercial.
It's a segment that they did, and but apropos of absolutely nothing. Now, don't try to make any weird connections here.
I haven't heard anything of this yet because I tried to watch it, so I'm fresh ears. Let's go.
Okay, so this just stands on its own. Here we go.
My name is Jem O'Reilly. At 16 years old, I was diagnosed with a heart condition, which means I have to be really careful with my health. Activities such as running could be dangerous, potentially causing sudden death for someone like me. And I am not alone.
They found out that I had an undiagnosed heart condition that could easily send my pulse to over 250 beats per minute.
Finn's heart condition nearly killed him after going on a bike ride.
He was going grey, and I remember thinking, okay, I think I'm going to be calling an ambulance here. I tried to count his heartbeat. I couldn't even count it. It was going that fast.
Luckily, Finn's condition was identified early, and he was given the right medical care. But many people don't know they have these type of heart conditions. Every week in the UK, 12 young people die from an undiagnosed heart condition like mine. That equates to 600 young people per year between the ages of 14 and 35. This is something the charity Cardiac Risk in the Young wants to change by screening every young person across the country for potential heart conditions.
We've never accepted that as a society we should just sit back and see fit and healthy young people dying suddenly from undiagnosed conditions and to do nothing about that. And we know that screening can prevent up to 89% of these sudden deaths. That's what the research has shown.
If I wasn't told, I might not be here for this interview.
Often we only hear of these conditions when a tragedy happens, like the recent cardiac arrest of Christian Eriksen, or the well-known incident of Fabrice Muamba. Cardiac risk in the young saw a huge spike in calls following the collapse of Christian Eriksen on the pitch, and they're now dealing with a backlog of more than 50,000 people who want to have their hearts tested. To be diagnosed with a heart condition is not the end of the world. It is a step towards understanding your potential and your limitations. Under the careful supervision of the heart unit at the Royal Brompton Hospital, I've been able to manage my condition, and I've been given the sign-off to run 10 kilometres.
Hi, Jem. Shall we go in? See you there? Yeah, very well.
Finally.
Okay, do you want to come in?
Why are you confident in me doing long distance running?
Nothing in life is without risks, but I'm confident that we have made a very personalised plan for you. We've taken everything into account to measure your risk and also to reduce your risk. And we've discussed the risks of exercise against the harms of not exercising for your physical health and also your mental well-being. And so I'm happy that you understand those risks and benefits and that we've done everything we can to support you in doing this safely.
It may not be the London Marathon, but for those with heart conditions like mine, it's our marathon. Jem O'Reilly, BBC London.
Okay, now you paranoiacs out there might completely inappropriately ask why the British government via a charity wants to screen the entire population of young people for undiagnosed heart conditions.
You might wonder that all of a sudden.
You might feel the temptation to make certain connections to something happening this year. But that would be inappropriate. You should not indulge in such ridiculous, shameful conspiracy mongering.
We are not saying that anything that people may have took into their bodies could have possibly caused heart conditions to start cropping up in unreasonable numbers.
Because the BBC did not mention anything about that thing that you might be thinking about.
No, it wouldn't. But yeah.
They also didn't specify any of the conditions either.
No.
Which is a little strange, but not at all suspicious.
Not at all suspicious. Yeah, man, it just don't. I mean, I get not going along with Babylon is a problem. Causes trouble, but it's don't go along with Babylon.
Don't go along with Babylon.
It's not. It won't. There's no easy way out here. And that's okay.
The attitude of I refuse to participate in this is very important right now.
Yeah, now you will be unaccounted for.
Right, and they hate that.
They'll try to push you out. But whatever, man, you just I mean, I'd rather do that than have to like have a thing that measures my twerking to give me Bitcoin. I mean, that's what that patent
Sumo's
is about.
Twerking for Bitcoins.
I mean, it's totally possible.
That's almost as dignified as podcasting.
Almost. But we are just a rung above them.
Did you get any followers on Twitter last night?
No.
That's good.
I tempted Twitter. I was like, give me more followers and I'll show you new patches of smokestack skin. And no one took the bait.
No one took the bait. Well, they know it's not worth it.
You have a very smooth skin.
That's a bad deal.
It's like poured marble.